That night, the house was silent until I heard my daughter's muffled sobs from behind her bedroom door. I reached for the handle, but then another sound froze me in place. From the study, my husband's voice. Sharp, deliberate. "She's the only way out, Dawson. You'll get what you want, and I'll finally be free of this debt." My blood ran cold. My own husband, trading our daughter? I stumbled back against the wall, the words drilling into my skull. Our daughter, a bargaining chip. If you've ever discovered a truth so cruel it shattered the ground beneath you, you know that helpless, burning disbelief. So I'll ask you straight. If it were you, hearing your husband barter away your child's future, what would you have done in that moment? Before we go further, make sure you like this video and share it with someone who believes family should never be for sale. And tell me in the comments, would you have confronted him instantly or waited to gather proof? My name is Laura. I'm 42 years old. For years, I believed I had built the perfect family. I gave up a promising career in publishing to raise our daughter, Emily, and to support my husband, Mark, while he chased his business dreams. I used to say, his success is our success. I meant it. I pawned my wedding ring once just to help him cover payroll, telling myself it was only temporary. Emily was 16 then, bright, gentle, a girl who scribbled stories into her notebooks late at night. Mark used to call her my little poet. I thought that was love. But love doesn't come with a price tag. The cracks had started months earlier. Mark came home late, kept his phone locked, and pushed me away with cold answers. "Company matters. You wouldn't understand." Emily noticed too. One night she whispered, terrified, "Mom, I heard Dad say something about sending me away. About a deal." That was the seed of betrayal. I brushed it aside, wanting to believe him. But deep down, I knew. Our sacrifices were being twisted into something darker. And then came that night. Emily crying. Mark's voice through the door. Words no mother should ever hear. I stormed into his study, my voice shaking. "Mark, did you just say you would trade Emily for your debt?" His face snapped toward me, pale with fury. "You don't understand. This is business. If Dawson wipes the slate clean, we can start over." "Business?" I spat. "She's your daughter, not collateral." But his jaw set like stone. This wasn't desperation. This was choice. Later, lying awake beside Emily, clutching her trembling hand, I realized the truth. Betrayal doesn't kill love all at once. It erodes it until nothing remains but resolve. That night I swore. Emily would never be treated like currency. Whatever came next, I would fight. And so, the real battle began. The morning after that night, I moved like a ghost through my own kitchen. The coffee pot hissed and clicked. The house smelled like roasted bitterness. Emily sat at the table, tapping the edge of her cup, eyes rimmed red. Mark entered in a pressed shirt and a rehearsed smile, the kind you put on for clients, not for your wife and daughter. "Big day," he said, pecking the air near my cheek. "Let's keep things normal." Normal. The word lodged like a shard in my throat. Emily stared at him. "I'm not a deal, Dad." His jaw flicked. "Don't start." If you've ever had to eat breakfast in a room where love had turned into an equation, you know the silence weighs more than the dishes in the sink. I felt every second press down on us. When he left for meetings, I stood in the doorway and watched his taillights disappear. Emily came to my side, her voice small. "Mom, what if he really does it?" "I won't let him," I said, steadying my voice for her. "But I need to understand exactly what he's promised." I squeezed her hand. "Will you help me find out?" She nodded, a tear sliding down, and for the first time in weeks, I saw something bloom in her eyes. Resolve. That afternoon, I went into the study. Mark had changed the desk lock. Petty. Obvious. But he'd forgotten the filing cabinet. Inside were folders labeled with invoices and vendor lists, but one thin maroon folder stood out. It wasn't ours. It had a gold embossed initial, D. My fingers shook as I opened it. A draft agreement with Dawson Holdings. Language swam before me. Unsecured loan, collateralized obligation, guardianship arrangement. And then a sentence that stole the air from my lungs. Upon consent of the minor and legal custodial signatures, guardianship may be reassigned to the Dawson household for the duration of international educational placement. In consideration, all outstanding balances owed by Mark Ellison shall be deemed satisfied. I had to sit down. If you've ever read words that try to make something monstrous sound polite, you know the rage that rises. Paper can lie with perfect grammar. I copied the critical pages with our old printer's stubborn grind and slid them into a cookbook on the living room shelf, between lasagna and Sunday pot roast. Then I photographed every page and emailed the images to a new private account I had created years ago and never used, back when I still thought privacy was a dramatic word. I wasn't dramatic anymore. I was awake. That evening, Emily and I cooked in near silence. Garlic, butter, and thyme filled the room, the scent of ordinary life trying to make a case for itself. The front door opened. Mr. Dawson filled the frame behind Mark. He was taller than I remembered from charity events, broad-shouldered, immaculate, the kind of man who wore a smile like armor. He set a leather briefcase on our console table, as if it had a reserved seat in our home. "Laura," he said smoothly, "this smells divine. You always had a talent for making things work." I held his gaze. "We won't be needing your help." Mark's warning glance sliced the air. "Laura, please." "May I?" Dawson gestured toward the dining room, strolling as if it belonged to him. Emily stiffened on the staircase, clutching her books to her chest. Dawson noticed. His smile thinned into something colder. "I hear you're a bright girl," he said. "International programs adore bright girls. New countries, new opportunities." Emily descended one step, then another. "And what do they take in return?" He chuckled, glancing at Mark. "She's sharp. Good quality in a ward." I stepped between them. "Dinner's getting cold." Dawson's eyes flicked to my hands, flour-dusted, trembling. "Enjoy your meal," he said softly. "Decisions digest better with butter." He patted Mark on the shoulder and left with that silent briefcase, slipping into the night like a secret with a driver. When the door shut, I turned on Mark. "He is not setting foot in this house again." "You don't understand leverage," he snapped. "I am drowning, Laura. We are a week from default. Payroll, suppliers. If Dawson calls in the note." I laughed, a sound without joy. "So you throw our daughter into the sea and call it rescue? Don't be theatrical. Don't be monstrous." He grabbed the back of a chair, knuckles white. For a heartbeat, I saw fear. Real, human fear, beneath the arrogance. But fear doesn't excuse selling your soul. It only shows you where the price tag hangs. Over the next days, the house became a negotiation table no one had invited us to. Mark's phone calls took root in the corners, whispered promises, a calendar bristling with late-night dinners, a courier who arrived twice with thick envelopes stamped confidential. Emily and I grew our own routines, eyes that spoke more than mouths, doors locked carefully, a shared notepad of observations tucked under a floorboard that creaked when you stepped exactly left center. "Mom," Emily whispered one night, pressing her earbud into mine. "Listen." She had recorded a call between Mark and Dawson. The audio was muffled, gritty like gravel. "Mark, the guardianship line needs to be subtle. She'll never sign if—" Dawson. "She's 16. The right school, the right lure. She'll feel chosen. People like to mistake cages for castles when there's a view. Mark. Laura is digging. I can feel it. Dawson. Then hand her a shovel that points the wrong way. I felt Emily watching me as the recording ended. Mom, I'm scared. I pulled her into my arms. Me too. But fear can be a flashlight if we hold it right. If you've ever parented in a storm, you know the new language you learn. Half warnings, half prayers. The next strike came at Sunday dinner. Mark arrived late with a bouquet. Peonies, my favorite. He set them down carefully, as if flowers could rewrite a contract. I got accepted, Emily blurted, pulling a letter from her pocket. Some program in Switzerland, it came to Dad's office. The letterhead was elaborate. The scholarship language glittered. A line near the bottom snagged my eye. Parental guardian authorization required. Reassignment paperwork included for international residency compliance. So neat. So polite. My hands went cold. Isn't this great? Mark said too brightly. Full ride, elite mentorship. Dawson has connections. I folded the letter slowly. Connections to our daughter's signature. He slammed his palm on the table. Stop poisoning her against opportunity. Emily flinched. I steadied my voice. Opportunity doesn't require custody transfer. Every dream requires a price, he hissed. You of all people should know. I looked at my bare ring finger. I do. Which is why I'm done paying for your ambition with our child. He pushed back from the table, chair screeching, and stalked out. The peonies quivered in their vase, shedding a few pink petals onto the runner, a soft, floral snowfall. Emily reached for my hand. We didn't eat. Hunger and fear taste too similar. That night, thunder stitched the sky. While Emily slept, I crept to the study again. The desk remained locked. I tried the keys I knew. Nothing. Then I remembered. The hollow behind the top bookshelf panel. Years ago, we hid birthday presents there. I stood on a chair and reached inside, fingertips grazing cool metal. A small key slid into my palm, attached to a tag with a number handwritten in Mark's neat, controlling script, a safe deposit number. I stared at it, lightning pulsing through the window. If he had moved the important documents off-site, then Dawson's fingerprints were everywhere, just not where a wife could see. I photographed the key and texted the image to a name I hadn't dialed in years. Claire, my old college friend, now a family attorney. Emergency, can we talk? She replied within minutes. Tomorrow, early, my office. I slept in fragments, dreaming of doors and signatures. In the morning, Emily met me by the door with a small recorder and a steady gaze. For when people pretend they didn't say what they said, she whispered. In that moment, I saw her childhood end, not with a celebration, but with a careful, brave choice. I left Mark a note by the coffee maker. Emily and I are visiting a friend. Back by dinner. It wasn't a lie, it was a boundary. At Claire's office, sun spilled across legal pads and potted plants. She hugged me tight, then listened without interrupting as I unfolded the whole rotten tapestry. Dawson, the draft agreement, the scholarship letter with its predator's smile, the safe deposit key. Claire's questions were precise, surgical. Do you have copies? Yes. Any recorded admissions? Not yet. But Emily caught a call. I can get more. Good. We'll need a record of undue influence, plus possible fraud if he concealed debt exposure. And that guardianship clause? Laura, you can fight this. The words didn't fix anything, but they gave me a floor to stand on. If he tries to move quickly, Claire continued, scribbling, he'll press for signatures under pressure. Don't sign, say nothing, document everything. And Laura, this key? She held up the photo on my phone. It's leverage. Whatever he's hiding, we can subpoena. I exhaled for what felt like the first time in days. What if he escalates? Then we'll be ready. When we left, Emily squeezed Claire's hand, whispering, "Thank you for believing us." Claire smiled. "You're not merchandise, sweetheart. You're a minor with rights. And a voice." Back home, the house held its breath. Mark waited in the living room, suit jacket off, sleeves rolled. He looked like a man who had been arguing with ghosts. "Where were you?" His tone balanced between worry and accusation. "Visiting an old friend," I said. "A lawyer." His face twitched. "You're dragging outsiders into this? You dragged them in the minute you let Dawson price our daughter." He stepped forward, lowering his voice. "You think you can outmaneuver me, Laura? I've already arranged the appointment with the notary. Tomorrow." Emily's breath hitched. "For what?" "For your scholarship paperwork," Mark said, fixing his gaze on me. "2 signatures, and the future opens." I held his stare. "Notaries can witness anything. They can't sanctify betrayal." He scoffed, but I saw the ripple of uncertainty. I lifted my phone, pressed a button. The small recorder Emily had handed me blinked a quiet red. "Say it again," I said softly. "So the future can hear you too." If you've ever stood at the edge of a cliff and felt the ground firm beneath your feet, you know the sensation that surged through me. Fear turning into something else. Not courage, exactly. Decision. Mark's eyes flicked to the recorder, then to Emily's set jaw. For the first time, I watched him realize he had underestimated the 2 people he thought were easiest to move. Outside, a car door shut. Tires crushed gravel. A familiar silhouette strode past the window. Measured, expensive. Mr. Dawson was back. And he wasn't alone. The doorbell's sharp chime sliced through the house like a blade. Emily and I exchanged a glance, hers wide with dread, mine steady with a kind of resolve I hadn't felt in years. Mark smoothed his shirt, squared his shoulders, and opened the door. There he was again. Mr. Dawson. Immaculate as always, silver cufflinks gleaming, shoes that didn't dare scuff. But this time another figure lingered behind him, a younger man in a tailored suit, carrying a briefcase. His notary. "Good afternoon," Dawson said smoothly, stepping inside without waiting. "Shall we finalize things? Time is precious, and futures even more so." I moved to stand by Emily, resting a hand on her shoulder. Mark cleared his throat. "Laura, let's just listen." "Listen to what?" I asked, voice low but sharp. "The sound of our daughter being bartered off like she's a car lease?" Emily trembled but held her ground. Her hand slid into her hoodie pocket where the recorder was hidden, its small red light blinking. Dawson placed a folder on the coffee table. "This is a simple guardianship transfer for international residency compliance. Perfectly standard. Mark has already reviewed the terms." I leaned forward, my voice steady. "Emily's name, my signature. That's what you want." Dawson's smile barely moved. "What I want is to see potential nurtured, and to relieve your family of unnecessary burdens." "Burden?" Emily's voice cracked. "I'm your burden?" Dawson tilted his head. "Don't take offense, young lady. In every arrangement there's consideration. You'd be gaining opportunity." I felt Emily stiffen under my hand, her jaw clenched. "I don't want your opportunity," she whispered. Mark's face flushed. "Emily, this is for you." "No, Dad." She cut him off. "This is for you. For your debt." The room froze. Even Dawson's polished calm wavered for a heartbeat. Emily reached into her hoodie pocket, pulled out her phone, and pressed play. Mark's voice filled the room. "She's the only way out, Dawson. You'll get what you want, and I'll finally be free of this debt." Dawson's recorded reply followed. Silk turned venom. "People like to mistake cages for castles when there's a view." The silence that followed was louder than any scream. Mark lunged forward. Where did you get that? Emily's eyes glistened but didn't waver. From you, Dad. From your lies. If you've ever watched a child stop being a child in a single instant, you know how it steals your breath. She wasn't pleading anymore. She was testifying. Dawson rose slowly, snapping the folder shut. His polished mask slipped, revealing the predator beneath. You've been recording private business. That's a dangerous habit. I stood too, meeting his gaze. Dangerous to whom? To the man who thought he could own my daughter's signature? Or to the one who helped him? Mark stammered, his voice cracking. Laura, you're blowing this out of proportion. Dawson, don't leave. We can still work something out. Dawson straightened his cuffs. Work something out? Mark, your leverage evaporated the moment she pressed play. He shot Emily a cold, calculating look. You're clever, little one, but cleverness has a cost. I stepped between them, my voice steady as steel. And so does corruption. You'll find your name in court papers before you find it on my daughter's guardianship form. The younger man with the briefcase shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Dawson, maybe we should step outside. This is delicate. For the first time, I saw hesitation flicker in Dawson's eyes. He wasn't invincible. He was exposed. Mark, however, clung to his delusion. He turned on me, face red with rage. Do you want us ruined? Do you want the company destroyed? I've sacrificed everything for us, Laura. I felt laughter rise in me, bitter, sharp. Everything? You sacrificed me when you pawned my ring. You sacrificed our home when you signed loans in secret. And now you sacrifice Emily because you think ambition excuses betrayal. I turned to Emily, my voice softening. But we don't measure worth in debt, sweetheart. We measure it in love. And his ledger is empty. Emily's tears spilled, but she smiled faintly through them. I believe you, Mom. That night, after Dawson retreated and Mark stormed off to his study, I sat with Emily at the kitchen table. The recorder rested between us like a new heartbeat. We can't just have this, I said quietly. We need a chain. Documents, witnesses, legal proof. Emily wiped her cheeks. The safe deposit key. I nodded. Tomorrow, we'll go with Claire. For the first time in weeks, Emily's eyes gleamed not with fear, but with determination. He thought I was too young to fight back. He was wrong. If you've ever felt the tide turn beneath your feet, you'll understand the fire in my chest. We weren't prey anymore. We were preparing the hunt. The next morning, the three of us, me, Emily, and Claire, stood in the sterile lobby of a downtown bank. The safe deposit key was warm in my palm. Ready? Claire asked. I nodded, heart pounding. What we found inside that steel box would shatter the last illusions I had about my husband and give us the final weapon to turn the tables once and for all. The safe deposit box was small, but the secrets inside were heavier than stone. Claire pulled out a stack of folders, each stamped with dates and signatures. My stomach knotted as she flipped through. There it was. The official loan contract, binding Mark to Dawson's company. Attached to it, draft guardianship transfer papers already bearing Mark's signature. He had signed away his parental rights, waiting only for mine and Emily's. And tucked at the bottom, a receipt. Dawson's wire transfer into Mark's personal account. Proof of payoff. Emily whispered, He really did it. He already chose. Claire closed the folder with a snap. This is fraud, coercion, breach of fiduciary duty. With this, Laura, we can do more than defend. You can take the offensive. That night, I didn't confront Mark. I let silence grow, thick and cold. He mistook it for surrender. He had no idea the storm we were preparing. 2 weeks later, we sat in a family courtroom. The ceiling was high, the air stale with decades of other people's pain. Emily sat beside me, clutching my hand. Claire organized papers at the council table, her calm, precise. Mark entered flanked by Dawson, both looking smug, confident. Mark even dared a smile at me, a smile I had once loved, but now saw for what it was: arrogance sharpened by betrayal. The judge, a woman with sharp eyes and a steady gavel, called the session to order. Claire stood. Your Honor, today we present evidence that Mr. Ellison, under financial duress, attempted to barter custodial rights of his minor daughter in exchange for debt forgiveness. We submit contracts, wire receipts, and recorded admissions. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Mark's smile faltered. Dawson crossed his arms, jaw tightening. Claire clicked a remote. From a small speaker came the recording. Mark's voice. She's the only way out, Dawson. You'll get what you want, and I'll finally be free of this debt. Dawson's reply. People like to mistake cages for castles when there's a view. Gasps echoed. Emily's eyes glistened, but she sat tall, brave. Mark shot to his feet. That was taken out of context. The judge silenced him with a gavel crack. Sit down, Mr. Ellison. Claire handed over the loan papers. Here is the guardianship draft already bearing Mr. Ellison's signature. And here, she lifted the receipt, is proof of financial gain tied directly to that contract. I watched the judge's face harden. Mark's voice cracked. Your Honor, I was desperate. I was trying to save my company, our livelihood. I rose slowly. No, Mark. You weren't trying to save us. You were trying to save your pride. You gambled with your daughter's life to keep your empire of debt alive. I turned to Emily. And you underestimated her. You thought she was too young, too quiet. But she listened. She recorded. She stood up. Emily's voice rang clear. I'm not your bargaining chip, Dad. I'm your daughter. Or I was. The courtroom fell silent. Even Dawson looked unsettled, as if the ground had shifted beneath him. The judge leaned forward. Mr. Ellison, this court finds your conduct not only negligent but malicious. Custody will be awarded solely to Mrs. Ellison. Furthermore, financial disclosures reveal misappropriation of marital assets. Restitution will be determined. Mark collapsed into his chair, face pale, sweat pooling at his temples. Dawson muttered a curse and gathered his papers, already stepping away from a sinking ship. I felt the weight lift, not because justice is painless, but because it gives wounds a name. As we left the courtroom, reporters clustered outside. Microphones jutted forward. Mrs. Ellison, how does it feel to win? I squeezed Emily's hand, looked straight at the cameras, and said, This isn't about winning. It's about remembering that no debt, no company, no ambition is worth more than a child's dignity. Respect isn't given by blood, it's earned through love and kindness. Beside me, Emily lifted her chin high. Mark stood alone on the steps, surrounded by silence. If you've ever tasted justice after months of poison, you know the sweetness is sharp. It doesn't erase betrayal, but it declares, you survived. That evening, Emily and I sat at the kitchen table, the peonies long wilted, the house finally quiet. She whispered, We're free, aren't we? I brushed a strand of hair from her face. We are, but freedom is only the beginning. Now we rebuild. The light through the window caught her eyes, no longer wide with fear, but with something stronger, resolve. And I knew. Betrayal had ended here. But our story of healing had just begun. The morning after the verdict, the house felt different. Not lighter, there was still rubble inside me, but quieter. For the first time in years, silence didn't carry the weight of secrets. It carried possibility. Emily padded into the kitchen in her socks, hair messy, eyes softer than I'd seen in weeks. She poured herself a bowl of cereal and sat across from me, smiling faintly. Feels weird, she said. What does? I asked. Not waiting for Dad to come in and start a fight. Not wondering what phone call he's hiding. Just sitting here with you. Safe. I reached across the table, squeezing her hand. Safe is a word I never want you to doubt again. The court awarded me sole custody. The company, Mark's so-called empire, was headed toward bankruptcy, but I no longer felt chained to its fate. Dawson? His reputation cracked in public. Clients withdrew. His empire, too, had termites. Emily and I focused on what was ours. The little routines, the normal things that had been stolen from us. Evening walks by the river. Movies on the couch without phones buzzing in the background. Cooking together not in silence, but with music spilling through the kitchen speakers. She laughed again. Real laughter. The kind that made her shoulders shake. I realized I had missed the sound like a heartbeat. One night, weeks later, Emily asked, "Mom, do you regret everything? Marrying him, giving up your job, all of it?" I thought about the years I had spent believing sacrifice was love, that erasing myself was loyalty. Then I looked at her, stronger, braver, eyes unbroken even after betrayal. "No," I said, "because if I hadn't walked that road, I wouldn't be here with you, and I wouldn't have learned what love really is. It isn't silence. It isn't sacrifice without respect. It's being seen, heard, and valued." She leaned against me, whispering, "Then we'll be okay." "Yes," I said. "We'll be more than okay. We'll be free." If you're watching this and you've ever felt invisible in your own home or sacrificed everything only to be betrayed, I want you to hear me. You are not currency. You are not collateral. No ambition, no pride, no company is worth your dignity. Sometimes justice comes in a courtroom. Sometimes it comes when you draw a line and say, "No more." Either way, it comes when you choose yourself, when you choose to protect the ones who matter most. Respect isn't automatic. It isn't handed down by blood or vows. Respect is earned through love, through kindness, through showing up. And if someone forgets that, you have the right, the duty, to remind them. As Emily and I walked out of the courthouse that day, the sun caught our faces. She slipped her hand into mine, not as a child clinging for safety, but as a young woman choosing to stand beside me. I whispered to her, "You are the most precious thing I will never let anyone trade." She smiled, eyes glistening. "And you're the reason I'll never be afraid to fight for myself." We stepped into the light together. No more shadows trailing us, only the path forward. If you were in my place, standing in that kitchen hearing your husband sell your child's future, how would you have reacted? Would you have stayed silent or fought back? Have you ever witnessed something unjust in your family? Words or actions that tried to reduce love to a transaction? Share your story below. Here, every voice matters. Every story is a reminder. None of us endures alone. Together, we speak up for justice and respect. If this story touched you, leave a comment or even a message to yourself, a promise that you won't accept less than the dignity you deserve. And don't forget to subscribe to Her Betrayal Stories and hit the notification bell. More stories of sacrifice, betrayal, and unexpected turns are waiting for you. Stories that might echo your own and remind you that healing is possible. Because in the end, betrayal may wound us, but truth sets us free.